Welcome back. Today we're revisiting reels. We shot this video years and years ago. Not a lot's changed really, but I wanted to go over just a few of the basics about reels and how you may match them, price and stuff. We just shot a video about the $1,000 rod. Got a few people's panties in a wad over that one, boy. We never said that the $1,000 rod wasn't good. We just said you get another reel or rod that's virtually as good for less money. And I'm going to go through that with these two. But this one might surprise you because reels aren't that expensive compared to fly rods. And I'm going to walk you through a bunch of these things. And I'm going to tell you what I like in a reel. So when I go over when I talk about what I do fishing, it's not from somebody that fishes 10 times a year. I mean, a lot of time on the water. And the one thing I've never designed is a reel, and I'm going to go through a couple of points that I would like to see in reels, but I'm basically just want you to understand what you're paying for and what you get for your money, really. And so I have this reel I just got today. A friend of mine, George, brought it to me. This is a 3 1/8 unique Hardy pre-war 100-year-old reel. This reel's still going, right? This thing is, I just love this thing. I can't wait to match it up. I fish, and it has no drag. And you know, drag systems on reels are reel drags are relatively new to our world. When I started fishing in the 70s, you know, a lot, if you had a Hardy, you were somebody. I mean, that was like the hallmark of all reels. And they were pretty expensive, 150, you know, $200 maybe even back then. But they were no drag. They have a click paw, which click paws just stop the reel from going backwards. This is actually a right hand. So it just stops that reel from going backwards, any over spooling, right? And as a trout, and this is about trout, don't any saltwater cats call me up and or text me or whatever and tell me that, well, in the saltwater you gotta have this. I know it's a different thing. And so we're talking trout reels here. And so when I go through this, there's a couple things that we end up here on some of the higher priced reels. And I want you to understand what the function of the reel is. First and foremost, it's got to balance your rod. So I've got different size reels here. You have to figure that out. You got to make sure that the reel's balanced. So I personally like a reel that's a little heavier. I like the weight in my wrist, and it smooths my cast up. But that's kind of basic. You'd have to go to a shop and have somebody say, well, I got this rod, I want to match it that. And then you start getting into the actual function of the reel. So when you get into that, there's a couple things that have changed over the years. One, it used to be people were really concerned with backing capacity. That is such a crock of crap. I mean, in 40, well, more than that, in 50 plus years of 55, closing 60 almost years of fishing, and a lot of trophy fishing, I have seen backing so few times in my life, it's ridiculous, including lake fish over 15, 20 pounds. They just really seldom get out into your backing. So this whole capacity thing should go out the window. If you get a fish into your backing, it's probably ass hooked and you snagged it and it's downstream and it's not coming home, off it goes. So most of the time your fish are going to be within your fly line, which is 100 feet, right? So that's a thing that kind of has gone by the wayside. People have realized they don't need that much backing. Even for big fish, it's really rare. I know it happens. Somebody's going to comment that they're the greatest in the world and they hit backing all the time. Ass-hooked fish, that's what I'm telling you. But back to the reels. So I'm starting with the cheapest reel, and I'm going to go through this. And much like I did a thing about the Traverse, the Echo Traverse, this is an Echo base. This reel is $45. I fished it for 2 seasons. I particularly like that aspect. And I always fish this on my lake reel rods. And you know, the fish on the lake, bigger, faster, thankfully sometimes dumber. You catch a lot of fish, right? And I really like to be able to pick up line in a hurry. When you look at that reel and you see it free spooling, fish is running at you and it's coming wide open, I like to be able to fan it just fast as I can, right? And it picks up line because the fish is coming at me. In the rivers, it's not usually as big a deal. But this is a Korean reel. It's $50, right around there, 45, 50 bucks. And what you're going to see is reels will go in like $50 to $100 jumps until you hit the American made. We'll get to that in a second. So you got a $45, $50 reel. Then you got the Reddington Zero. Again, this is a Korean reel, cast reel. A lot of these reels are cast and then machined. We'll get to that in a second. But again, click paw reel, not a lot to it. It won't overspin. When you hear those things, if you're ever curious, because I was playing with this Uniqua, you can hear this noise. It changes. It gets a lower decibel, kind of a little deeper throaty sound. That tells you that you're going against the drag. This way, louder. That's your drag side. That's your clicker that's just a little bit more resistance so your line doesn't overspool. Personally, I don't care about drags at all with a trout reel. I think the most overrated thing in the world, but for trout, but I want one that's smooth. I mean, that's the critical thing. I don't care about how much weight I just don't want the reel to overspin. When the fish stops and the reel keeps spitting line out, you're in trouble. So, okay, here we go. We got a 50, we got 100. Now we're going to step into one of my personal favorite reels ever made. This is a Lamson. This is a liquid, and this is the best value, I think, in the business. $270, you get 2 spools. $150, you can buy the reel, but if you buy the reel, you get 2 extra spools and a little bag. I just think it's a great value, and it's American made. And I want to show you something about virtually. Once we step out of those click paws, I want you to see that there's one thing that's unique to almost every one of these reels. There's a one-way bearing in here. That's about the only thing, come back to me, that's about the only thing that can go wrong if you don't lose it. That's the only thing that can go wrong with a reel anymore is that bearing, and they're pretty universal, and they replace them in a hurry. But this thing is going to kill me. All right, we'll put that aside. Don't do that on the river. But that reel, to me, is the best value in the business because you get 2 extra spools, right? But then you're starting, so we just jumped, and I have one here out of order, and we went from 50, 100, 150, or 270 around there for the extra spools. And then this is the Hardy. This reel is the disc reel. I absolutely love this reel. But this is a Hardy, but it's built in Korea. It comes in at about $375. And again, it's a completely machined reel at this point. Everything's CNC. The tolerances on the reels nowadays are so incredible. And I mean, again, even back to that cheapest $50 reel, and this is where I would say that's a good entry-level reel. Entry-level meaning you might upgrade it, you might not. If the reel, I fished that thing for 2 years without anything going wrong with it, right? Finally, one of the bearings went bad on it, just that one way, and I had to replace it. But it was still, I got 2 years out of it. When you step into these reels, you start looking at really fine machinery. This is the Hardy. This reel is Korean made, and it's at $375. And now's when we're going to start seeing the jumps, right? So this is the high end of the Korean reels. The thing I love about this reel, I said earlier, if I could design reels, I've been trying to get somebody to let me build one forever. Tall and skinny. That is really critical to me. If the reel is tall and skinny, it means that arbor is very large. That means I get a lot of pickup. Every time I do that, I'm going to get about 8 inches, maybe more of pickup. I didn't check this one. I'm guessing it's 8 to 10 inches per revolution, which is a lot of pickup. When you look at the old school reels, like this, isn't really, but like this one here, this Uniqua, it would be, each one might be 3 to 4 inches of retrieve. So I'm tripling that just by retrieving, right? I like that. You also get, when you get a bigger arbor like that, your line comes off your reel very smoothly. It's much smoother than it is in the old days when the reels were shorter, fatter, and it kind of would stack your line inside, and it come off the reel, and you could feel it kind of thumping, right? And that's not good. I mean, that starts putting uneven tension. Rods start going up and down, stuff like that. Now we're back into the American-made reels. And I talked about this on the $1,000 rod thing. And I never said they weren't great rods. I just said that they were overpriced. If they were $800, I probably wouldn't be so pissed. But the reels, I don't really think, even when you get into the high dollar ones, like about this Lamson here, or I mean this Nautilus, when you get into the American-made reels, you're paying for American-made. And you're paying for machinery and stuff like that. And the difference between that, paying more for the reel than the rod, is that this reel is 100 years old. Most of the reels that I fish personally are at least, a lot of them are, 40 years old. I fish a lot of older Hardies. I fish medalists, some of those even. But when I fish for the bigger fish, when I do other things, when I'm putting a system together, I usually want to see an American-made reel. I like what I get for my money. So, onto this Lamson. This is the light speed. Now you're going to get into something that's more like $500. And what you're going to pay for is the American-made. You're going to pay for the fit and finish. And you're going to have a lot of details that you can pay for. So here, I'm just going to go through these three and kind of come back to that point. So here we've got the American-made. Everything's machined. Everything's out of a solid cast. Everything I said earlier, it's all CNC. These tolerances are ridiculously clean. All right. Then you get into this Ross. This is the Evolution R. I love these reels. Fished Evolutions for a long time. And now you're going to have to say, now you're going to pick up on a few things. One is the drags become incredibly precise, and they're all pretty even, right? They're not one really drags really better than the other one. These are all really tight tolerance, well machined. Now you're going to start picking out certain things that you like in your reel. For one, for me, I like the tall reels, right? The Ross, it's a look you start looking at. Do I like the look of the reel? Because they're really close to they're all really good, right? I fish a lot of Nautilus. Matter of fact, this is what I fish. Other than my dry fly reels for my old school stuff, I fish the Nautilus a ton. And this reel is going to come in at $575 XL Max. I love this thing. It's got good drag, saltwater compatible. You can go saltwater with this. You can go trout. You can do anything you want, right? It's got the heavier drag and the smooth drag. But you start paying when you get into these reels, because you really cap out at about $6 on these things. You start paying for stuff, and I've got this one on purpose. It's got a lime green backstop back here. It's got a blue knob, drag knob, reel seat, silver. You start paying about $50 a pop, and you start looking at like Abel's. I didn't bring over an Abel reels. You got custom paint jobs. You can pay up to $500 for a paint job. Now you're buying frill, right? You're not paying for the reel. The reels are going to be in there at that $500, $600 kind of at the top end of our reels. American made. I like the fact that you pay for extra for the American made on this, because this thing's not going to break. You got to really it's 100% your fault when a reel breaks. It means you crashed and burned, because you fell down and hit it, right? And they still warranty them. They don't warranty you smashing into the rocks, but they'll fix them for you if they can. But you get what you pay for on these reels. You get a high quality finish. You get a high quality tolerance. Everything is high dollar. But when you think about it, that's a pre-war reel. That's a 1920 reel, right? I'm still fishing it. My reels tend to last me forever. And it's more a fact if I like the looks of a new one, I get a taller, skinnier one like this Hardy. I'll fish this year just because I like that it's tall and skinny. And so the bottom line is you start at the very low end, and I guarantee you, like I said, I fished this reel for 2 years on my lake reels. Loved it. $50. How can you go wrong? Who cares if the thing breaks, right? Well, I do. But mine never have. I've never had one fail. We have these on our demo rods. Never had one fail. I fished the $500, $600 Nautiluses for all my big trout stuff and some of my lake stuff on the especially lines. I particularly like the fact that you can get 3 spools on these. The one that I dropped the drag on, don't buy this reel. But the one that I like the fact that that's a good value. That is the best value in the business. So when you get down to it, you're going to look at matching your rod. Do you like the sound? I think I hit on that. I'm not positive I did. You're going to listen to this all day, right? I don't That's just totally personal, what you like. I've got buddies that won't fish anything but old Hardies because they make a lot of noise. They love the sound. I like that muted sound. That's all personal. Then you're going to look at fit and finish, and how much do you want to pay for the frills, if you want the paint jobs and stuff like that. Other than that, it's pretty much you get what you pay for. You step out of the 300 and up, you're going to be paying for American made. That's a good thing. Hope you like it. Hope it helps you out.